All right, y'all, and we are back. The second edition of Interview with a Vampire. This week's episode is aptly titled "After the Phantoms of Your Former Self." So we're gonna jump right into it. Well, first, after we jump right into it, before we jump right into it, let's introduce ourselves. We have a new person with us today. I'm gonna let him introduce himself to everyone.
Hey everyone, I'm Corey.
Okay, that's all he's got. And Brittany.
Well, let me say this: I am a lover of all things sci-fi, horror. I'm a gamer. I'm a reader. I love history. So all of the above.
Okay, cool. Brittany.
Hey everybody, I'm Brittany Nicole. Excited to be back. That's all I got.
Hell yeah.
It's your girl, yeah. You already know what it is. I'm here for all things sultry and debauchery.
Ooh,
Let's
debauchery.
go.
I
Debauchery,
love that word.
yes.
All right, and everyone already knows me, so let's get straight into it. Let's start off talking about the title. The title is After the Phantoms of Your Former Self. Hell yeah.
Yeah,
What you
this
got?
gnat is not gonna steal my joy. Not. Um. Yes. So we all know that I love words and titles. So after the phantoms of our former self, this title for me just meant that I saw Louis kind of trying to hold on to his former life while transitioning into a brand new life. So it's not just like, oh, I'm in a whole new season. So he's going from being human to now he's this apex predator, as they would call it. And when I say they, I mean Lestat. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And boy, do we see him become an apex predator in lots of different ways. We
Mm,
see we also see an evolution of Louis in this particular episode. In
Yes.
episode one, I mean, he was the man. He was the man, right?
that's
Um,
right.
and things kind of change in
Yep.
episode two.
Yep.
Things kind of
Mm,
change.
I kind of think that part of it is because his former self is haunting him, so to speak.
ooh,
He doesn't know how to exist in this new space, but he still has the trappings of his former life, his mother. That's a whole conversation in and of itself, and all the things that go along with that, um, along with this handsome, hot to death man that is basically stalking him, you know, to deal with, and in that particular period of time, not really understanding his queerness and what that means and what
mm,
and how that will change him. So
yes, and he's trying to maneuver through his business relationships as well. So that was one of the things that was in the past that's, also in his present. So he's having to deal with that. But he has this newfound strength in being a vampire.
Mm.
and then the
Yeah.
religious aspect of it as well. You see him go from being super religious, in my opinion, being super religious to just being like, well, this is my new norm. God who? God Lestat, my French wife. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Branch white.
My
We're
French
not gonna let that
wife.
go, huh? We're not gonna let that go at
We can't
all.
let it go. We can't let it go.
Well, speaking of religious overtones, episode two kind of opens up with Lestat taking the priests to the cemetery. He's basically burying the priests.
Hmm.
And Louis, of course, is following him. You know, like he like tell me what to do, I'll do it. But oh, I'm so hungry. I want this blood. I want this blood. It's so bad. And then we get this one scene which is reminiscent to what we see in the movie
Hmm.
where Louis is looking at Lestat and
Like he is a piece of meat
mm,
and he just
Baby,
loves
I think it's
him.
more than one way,
Yeah,
more
there's
than
this
one way.
this euphoric
It
glaze
is euphoric. It is.
glaze over his eyes. He's gazing up like, ooh.
You know that first time you get a high or you get tipsy, like that very first time ever,
yeah,
and you're
yeah,
just like, what is this? This is what
everything is
life
good.
could be like.
Yes.
Oh my
My,
You
God.
my.
I kind of equate the bloodlust and the blood aspect and the sensuality of it, kind of like you do to a piece.
Listen, and isn't that the amazing, wonderful thing about what we love about vampires? It's very sultry. It's
Yes.
it's
Yes,
very alluring. So him just gazing up like that just ties it in both for me. Like, yep, it's about to go down. And there's only one coffin at the crib too.
right, right, right.
I would have loved to have seen that. We didn't see it. We didn't really see that. I would have look. I wanted to see that. I wanted to see that. Look, you done gave me immortal life, and now I get to do this.
Let me see what it do.
From sun up to sundown, I get to do this.
Grab my imaginary pearl. Ooh.
But then but listen, they kind of they allude to that too, and like towards the middle or the end of the episode when they're getting into the coffin, and I think it's Louis kind of makes a joke, or Lestat makes a joke saying that I'll let you get on top, So
There we go. That's our first quote of the night.
I'll let you get on top. The negotiation has begun. Okay.
After he done got in there stark ass naked. Okay.
Okay.
Look, we have to have a rule. We're not gonna have. We can't talk before the show because
I don't
because there
like
are
this
things
rule.
that. What'd you say?
I don't like this rule.
You don't like this rule?
I don't know how I feel
I'm just
about this
saying
rule.
because it's kind of like we're talking. We're about we want to talk about this. We want to talk about that. And then boom, Corey just bam.
Stole your quote.
It wasn't mine though. It was yours. It was yours.
No, I have a different quote.
Oh, you have it.
And it has
That's the only quote I know, to be honest with you. I'm not
nothing to do with sex. Surprisingly, my quote has absolutely nothing to do with sex. I know, right? Shocker.
But look,
I don't know what this says about us. That the whole relationship between us and this show is the thin line but it's appropriate though, because part of the reason that Anne Rice she enjoyed, and part of the things about her books was the line between sexuality and sex and arousal and all that in the world of being a vampire. So I think a lot of times they miss that, because blood is such an essential piece of our anatomy and physiology, and with that come right.
Yeah.
And the blood rushes to all kinds of places in the body.
Correct.
Oh, it really does.
Correct.
He said, "I've got all the right appendages." All right, believe it or not, the next part that we had to talk about was great quotes. So Corey started off with his great quote. I really want to hear what Elia has to say.
Me too.
So my quote comes from and I know we'll circle back around to Louis' character development, but my quote comes from when Louis actually kills for the first time and the reason that he kills. So I won't go into why he kills just yet, because I feel like we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But when they're going to dispose of the body, and Lestat is like, why? Why did you do this? This is a major businessman. He's like, he told me I was doing a good job. And Lestat says, you are a library of confusion. So I thought that was funny. I'm really corny, but for me, that was just hilarious. You are a library of confusion. Like, what? He complimented you, so you're mad? That was my quote. I just fell in love with it. You are a library of confusion. I can't wait to use it.
I love that.
You and me both, friend. You and me both. I wrote it down so I can remember, so I can tell somebody at work tomorrow.
So I want Brittany to go last. So I'll give mine. So it's definitely not necessarily a funny scene or even sensual, if you will. but Lestat was kind of sort of educating Louis about, what it's like to listen to the minds of humans. He was basically saying, yeah, it's something that we can do, but I try my best not to do it. It really just comes down to three basic things. I want food, I want sex, and I want to go home. And when I thought about my life,
Yeah.
When I look back over my life, this is what I came up with.
So true. It's so true.
Like, how many times did I think about all three of those things today?
It's awful.
Brittany, it's all on you, Brittany. What you got? Bring us home.
Okay. So the one that I can think about is whenever whenever Lestat called Louis fledgling. Is that how we say it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fledgling. And that was in the part where, was that whenever they were dealing with the opera singer? Do y'all remember?
Mm-hmm.
Was it the opera singer that happened?
No, it was when Louis killed the potential business partner.
Yeah.
The business partner. Yes, that part. I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute. What did you call
Yeah.
What
And
did you
he
call
said it a few times throughout the episode.
He
He
did.
Yes.
said it a few
I
times.
was
So by that
like,
time, he was kind of done with him. Like, you know what?
I don't like this. But that was the one that stuck out to me the most.
Okay.
Part of the reason why he probably doesn't like is because, and there's a theme with Louis, the recharacterization of Louis, a little bit in this iteration of Interview with the Vampire. The fact that he's Creole, but his representation of Creole is more melanated. So, there are certain things that can be said that takes us to a place that brings up certain feelings, and that's an undercurrent. At least these first few episodes of that particular point in time in New Orleans and what it means to be a black man in New Orleans and having a white lover and all those things where he also almost feels as though he's being talked down to by him and even including other people in New Orleans at the time. So
Yeah.
That's actually a great segue. The next thing that we said we wanted to talk about was Louis' relationship with his family. And I know that Corey and Brittany really wanted to talk about
the
this.
family.
Mm.
So, Corey, Brittany?
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead, Corey.
one of the things that I thought was really, really interesting, and you don't see it as much in the first two episodes as you see it a little bit closer to the more recent episodes, but you do get that sense, almost the immediate disdain that his family, that undercurrent of disdain that his family has for him when he starts to hang around the Frenchman or this mysterious man. And
French white.
This French white?
The
The
French
French white.
I mean, and for me, I just immediately thought back to when I came out, and the people that I hang around with or was hanging around with at that particular point in time as being more flamboyant than what I expressed at that particular point in time in my life. And immediately, family having something to say about the quality of the people that I was surrounding myself with, and what they thought and their impressions of what that meant. And it honestly, it did bring up some of those feelings, where I was just kind of like, ugh, it just really made me dislike the mother character, but it also reminded me so much of what we've read in other contemporary literature about our mothers and how mothers relate to their sons. And Lord, don't talk about if their sons are gay, and it just kind of, so much.
Well,
It's a
let's
lot to
explore.
unpack.
Well, let's explore. Like, I don't want you necessarily to divulge anything about your experience. But definitely, just kind of like, what is it do you think Louis is experiencing in that moment? For those of us who don't have that, that past, that experience?
I would really say the rejection, number one. It's the rejection, especially you see this a little bit later. We're not there yet in the show, but the sister was mainly in the beginning. She stood up for Louis, and then there is a dramatic shift. No spoilers here, no tea, but there's a shift in her relationship with her brother, and it's really a 180 that culminates in a significant event, and then something happened to where their relationship is drastically changed. So it affects Louis to the point where even when he's around, because of his blood nature, is what I'm gonna call it now, his blood nature, the instance with the baby and his lust and his bloodlust and the issues that he has with controlling his bloodlust, how it causes him to really finally sort of withdraw from his family, like Lestat was kind of starting to tell him to do. And I think that was kind of the beginning of the end, so to speak, of that attachment to his family. And I think it parallels a lot what gay men feel in the relationship with their own families, that you have to kind of sort of, not all instances, and times are changing, but or have changed or moving towards a better experience, that you have to withdraw to protect yourself. So you see that withdrawal of Louis in trying to protect himself, but also protect his family, i.e. the newborn there. So
Wow.
what I saw was not necessarily the mom outright um, pulling back from Louis. She actually even asked him to come around, but he
right.
tells her, like, we're a half mile, in both directions, like, where I'm at too. But I think part of the problem, at least for as it relates to the show, not necessarily the book, because I'm still reading, um, he can read her thoughts. So it's not necessarily what
What she
she's saying
says.
out loud, but he's able to read her. Like, she's like, oh, he done started getting his nails done. Like, and she doesn't say it, but she's thinking it, and he can read her thoughts. So it's just like, okay. So yeah, I'm sorry, that's my film. Be quiet.
Funny story. I had a similar instance when I first got my eyebrows waxed, and I went around my mom, and she was like, "What you did to your eyebrows?" And then,
I cleaned them up. I don't understand. Like,
Well, I don't want it to be lost. Brittany definitely had a lot of thoughts about Louis' relationship with his family, and so I wanted to give her some space.
Okay. I totally agree with Corey and Elle, what y'all had to say, and that was deep. Mine is a little bit lighter. The thing that I noticed the most at first is that dynamic, like what y'all said, between the mother and the son, but the mother, the son, and the boyfriend. And it's like
right.
this space. Like, where is the space for me in your heart when
The
you're
space
just
in
a
between.
mile and a half away, but yet you're wanting me to come to you when you always came to me? And what has this white man done in order for you to think that
I'm gonna tell
he
you what he
seems
did.
like he's basically taking a spot that's larger than your family, and that's a problem.
Peace.
So we need to figure out what's up with that. What is he doing to you to make you put him above your family? Because that's what it's looking like.
Levitating, levitating. Okay.
And then the audacity of Lestat to not even be invited, and he gonna sit here and say, "Oh, I'm coming to your house, and you got a banjo band playing in your front of your." So the audacity and the bouginess and the elitistness that he had when he came up there was very, very disrespectful. And he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, I'm with my main what?
But
Yeah,
baby,
I'm with him
what did the
what?
mama say? What did the mama say? What did she
With
say?
your overdressed."
Take
What
your
she say?
overdressed self.
Go on in the front, listen to the band. You know, like that was
No, that was a read.
everything.
That was a read.
It was a
That
read.
was
From
everything.
with the read from Genesis to Revelation. Okay.
She
And she's
she
always a
read,
lady.
baby. She read in the show.
No matter what, she's always a lady throughout the whole process. She never sweats, blinks an eye, or anything. She's just always classy and ladylike the whole time, you know?
So,
I love that
oh,
about
I'm
her.
sorry.
Go ahead.
So
I would say that. Go ahead.
I did want to say, so in the first episode, I think on air, I think when we recorded, I think I asked this question. Did we think that the mother or the sister know that Louis was gay prior to? And I don't remember what you all said. But I always thought they knew, right?
I think I
Always
said maybe.
maybe. But to me, that particular episode, well, first off, there must have been something that happened that maybe it was recorded, but we didn't see it in this particular episode. But it was so clear to me that something happened. That like there had to have been some confirmation that let his family know that he is gay, because there was another point in the episode where he basically tells his sister, you know my situation, as if to
Yes.
say
Essentially, I
What
would
song
think
is that
that
from, y'all?
huh?
What
you know
song
my
is that
situation.
from?
That's Erica Badu, Next Lifetime. but
See you
but I
next
think so.
time.
So the thing is, the family is living together. So even when the sister gets married, they're still staying in the house with the mom because it's this really big home, right? So Louis, I would assume, was living at the house as well. So when he meets this French wife, he ain't coming home. Right? He's not coming home anymore. You are spending all your time in the living quarters with this white man.
French
So
white.
French white.
this French white. So you know, to me, I feel like, at least for me, that might have been a little bit of a telltale, like, you ain't never did this before. You know,
Hmm.
we're a
He
well-to-do
followed him
family and
around
we
like
have
a
a
puppy
huge
dog.
home. Yeah, yeah.
There's so much stuff, like context below the surface of just the first few episodes that it's amazing how much it was packed into just an hour, and just the nuances and the way that they spoke to each other. I mean, just what we've been talking about with the relationship in the family and the relationship with the mother. That's all of our mothers. That subtle shade. The the rough relationship, but she's still your mama. But sometimes you just won't cuss her out.
But you
That.
can't,
But you
because you know
can't.
you better not.
You better not, because that's your mama. The rough love, the not understanding love, but she still loves. All of that existed in the relationship between Louis and his mother, and maybe even his sister to an extent.
Definitely, I definitely think that.
Yeah.
I think there was a strong bond. Of course, we're going to see the evolution of that bond in later episodes. But I do want to talk about this. Since we're talking about Black families and how we relate with each other, I do want to talk about how the fans, especially Black fans, have reacted to this particular show to borrow your term, Corey, the reiteration of this story as we move into the immortal universe. What are your thoughts on that?
So, I struggle because, on one hand, I am all for representation in media. And this representation is so good. It's so good. It's more than what I expected. Initially, when I heard and I saw the characters, I was a little concerned with Lestat. I'm not going to lie, because, that French white wasn't what I was expecting. He wasn't what I was expecting.
What were you expecting, Corey?
Well, give us a reference. Give us a reference, please.
I was looking for more of someone that would, when you see him, you would be like, not
my God.
the vapors or something along those lines. Not just the. I was expecting a little, but as we got into it,
when he started taking clothes off, that's when I'd be like, "Oh Lord, Jesus!"
I'm moving my screen. I thought
they would have dared put Eric Northman on there. No,
oh Lord.
But the characterization of him is what kind of draws you to him as a character. But with that being said, the uproar that people had with Louis de Pontelac, and the fact that he is more melanated than what the original story that we have come to know. The story was Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna have to go back and look at the books and see exactly what does she write about Louis. Um, but regardless, I think that we as fans sometimes have these expectations, even as Black fans, of how we're represented and how the fandoms that we enjoy represent our narrative, but also the stories that we love. So,
Mm.
and if it's not, God forbid, it's not exactly what we expect, then baby, it is over. Over
Camp,
nest.
cancel.
Canceled. Canceled. And, and I hate to use the W word, but, we have woke ourselves to death. but But, I think there exists space sometimes for us to allow the media in which we enjoy to grow outside of what we've traditionally expected. The difference being, if we look on the flip side of that coin with Wakanda, and the lack thereof of a Black Panther as we understand it now, because the movie has not come out yet. Um, I think there is a similar outrage from that particular fandom because the character is not being allowed to continue as Superman, as there's been, I don't know how many versions of Superman, I don't know how many versions of these other mainstream white characters, but there's already been a divergence from the character, um, when there's still so much story to tell. So I've said all that to say, we are hypersensitive to the stories in which we love and the stories in which we bond with. And I wonder, is that to our detriment of enjoying media? Um,
Are you
to,
talking about black? Um, are you talking about black society? Or are you talking about just general society?
well, we would start first with Black society, because we all Black. But for everybody else that's viewing this, in general, in general, is what is wrong with us as a group of fans, and I'm speaking of fandom now, to where we can accept iterations of these great stories and changes to the narrative.
Mm.
So, okay, so I guess if I'm understanding you correctly, Corey, um, I guess I'm right there with you. My love for something doesn't change just because all of a sudden there's this black character.
Hmm.
The love would have been there. I didn't know that there was I didn't know that this was coming out until all of a
Yeah.
sudden I see this commercial, and I'm just like, oh, I want to
Right.
see this.
Right.
And then I saw Louis was black. And I
Yeah.
was like, ooh, now I'm really intrigued. I was gonna watch either way it went. But now you have this black man. It's kind of like, y'all know I love Star Trek, right? So all of a sudden, the third installment of Star Trek, you had this black captain.
Yes.
Um America like felt two different things about it. Like all of a sudden, black people were coming back to Star Trek. Because if you remember
Hmm.
in the original Star Trek, a large percentage of the people who watched were black, and it had a whole lot to do with that character, Lieutenant Uhura. But they left the show. They left the show. All of a sudden, now you have this black captain, and they're right back in. Everybody else who loves Star Trek, they continue to watch. Now you have a whole new
A
group of
new
fans.
fandom. Yep.
People are going to complain all they want, but they're going to continue to watch. Let them
Right.
complain. I don't
Right.
care.
Right. And that's kind of what I've evolved to, because I at one point, I was protective of certain characters. You know, I typically wouldn't want to see a race swap character, white or black. Stay true to the original intent. But now I'm kind of like, you know what? If more of my favorite story or my favorite show or whatever media character is going to be seen by more people, and if the diversity is going to be there, then why not? It gives me more to look at, more to enjoy, more ways to see something that I love being expressed in contemporary and pop culture.
Hell
I
yeah,
think
your
there's
thoughts?
beauty. I think there's beauty in the artistry, right? Because it's not traditionally a black character. as far as Louis is concerned. But they what they took with it and did with it was create an opening for a whole nother part of the story that wasn't told.
Right.
When you're watching the original movie, even if you didn't read the book, there were the slaves on the plantation. There was the house girl that worked for Louis and all that. So you take it, you modernize it a bit. You still keep some of the essence, but you're getting an entire different perspective
Right. Right.
with incorporating that African American or Creole character into the mix. So I love what they did with it.
And it
I'm biased.
expands the fandom. It expands the fandom and
It
expands the
does.
story, you know?
Yeah.
Brittany.
I love the fact that you're seeing minorities in period dramas. Like I said that before. So many
Indeed.
times you do
And we not
not see
slaves.
the representation. It's like we just didn't exist until the 1900s.
Right.
No, we've been here, you know. And so the fact that
Oh, there's that
see
hate.
you finally see African Americans in this role is just so exciting to me. I
Yeah.
love it, and it's in Louisiana. I love it.
Okay. I think we talked about it during the first episode where we were talking about. Well, for me, I loved Louis' accent. It's probably the best Louisiana accent I've heard on television or movies,
Yes.
minus someone who's actually from Louisiana.
hmm He
So,
was
as
hanging with the right people.
okay,
Now, side note, do we sound like that? Do you think we sound like that to other people? It's a little watered down now, of course, because time has passed and we're a melting pot of cultures. But do we?
hold
Do
up,
you
wait a
think?
minute. So you need to talk to my sister. You go to those little small towns, or even New Orleans. Now, if you go to New Orleans, that some people actually do sound like that.
They sound like
Yeah,
that.
they
It's
do.
it's heavier though. His is
Yeah,
light.
yeah,
It's baby. You already know though. Like
yeah.
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah.
It's so heavy and raspy. And he did a really good job. All the characters did a really good job with their Louisiana accents, which
Yeah.
I
And I don't
love
think
so
any of them
much.
are from the United States. Like
No, no,
Louis,
no,
No.
and
no, no, no.
they're
That's not true.
Australian, right?
His mom. That's Ray Dawn Chong. That's Cheech and Chong's daughter.
Oh,
Oh,
She's been around forever.
yeah,
Straight
she
up
was the
Louisiana.
original Tales
I
from the
mean, not
Dark
Louisiana,
Side. Yeah.
not Louisiana, but straight
oh
up
wow.
USA.
Huh.
I don't know too much about the sister. You're probably right about the sister.
Hmm.
Yeah, but they did a really good job in my mind.
And
All
the
right.
They
French,
did.
the French is so good. It sounds like syrup when he talks.
I've seen some interviews where he said he had he made a point to study French and Italian because he wanted to do it justice. So yeah.
He did. I hope they win some awards for this because they've done an amazing job. Like amazing. I don't
Yeah.
feel like enough people are watching it. I don't feel like enough
It's a,
people
it's
know.
it's already been renewed for season 2.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you, Jesus.
yeah. It's already renewed for season 2,
Never
especially since
would
the
have
Mayfair
made
Witches.
it without
Oh my
you.
goodness, Brittany, how absolutely sacrilegious! No, ma'am. No.
You on timeout for the rest of the show.
No. Keep
You
it
on
coming. Keep it
timeout
coming.
for the rest of the
Keep it
show.
coming. Keep it coming. All right. So let's pivot just a little bit. All right. So we definitely want to talk about Louis' status within society. We saw a couple scenes where things were happening to Louis that might not have happened to another white man during that particular time. And I definitely wanted to give us some space to talk about those things and to see how Louis had to react and respond to that, which was like maybe the appropriate way to react and respond, and then not so appropriate given the fact that he is a vampire now.
Okay.
Brittany, you want to start us off?
Nope.
Oh, what?
I want to take a sip.
You want to take a sip? Hell
Corey, you
yeah,
wanna
what you
start
got?
us?
There's no intermission on the show, Brittany. No. Okay. So we have Louis that is this extremely business savvy person, right? So although he's very intelligent, very wise, very well aware of how to get to the money, move things around, because of what he looks like, he has a seat at the table, but they're not willing to value him. So
Mhm.
they still kind of want to treat him subserviently and have him refer to them as sir and all of these things. So they try to get him to settle for less because of what he looks like. So with all that going on, Louis comes into these powers, and I'm gonna push pause right there before I run into that before, just in case anybody has anything else that they want to say about Louis' place in society.
Oh, I have one. Okay, I'm ready. I had to take a sip. Excuse me, y'all.
That
Um,
was a goal.
a Jethrine sip. Okay. So, the fact that they were going back to episode one when the men were around the table and they were offering him only 10%, and Lestat paused everything and was trying to say, "Hey, you know you deserve better than that. We're gonna get you 15% at least, but you know that you deserve." And he came in with his French wide ways and so and just suaved it out and was all cool and just and was like, "Listen, let Bay, you about to be my Bay, future Bay. Let me get you your 15% like you deserve." I love that part, okay? And then coming back and now actually watching the business put into play, and then him having to say, yes, this is why I deserve this 15%. Yes, this is why he is my business partner. No, I do not have a lawyer, but this is why me and him are partners. Because what was he, the something of the town, not the mayor. He was the
Councilman,
He's
alderman,
a councilman or
alderman.
alderman,
alderman.
as they
He
as
was
they
like,
say.
yes, he's
Yeah,
the
or say
alderman.
it then.
But him being the alderman, you have all of these things up here. We're gonna make them, was it fire escapes? So that
Hmm.
way we don't have to worry about
You get
a
those
Hmm.
tax
permits.
or permits being put on us. And he's like, oh, you a smart boy. Smart boy. I'm a grown ass man. How you gonna
Right.
call me a smart boy?
He used the B word.
Oh, but hold on, wait a minute. There was another thing that this man did in that same scene, Brittany.
Yeah.
He started touching him.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
The
Oh.
disrespect.
At this point, you know it was coming. You know when you get angry and you get hot from your feet.
Yeah.
That you know that's why he was like, "I'm about to eat you. I'm going
This
to
is
eat
the
you
Yeah.
end
right
right
now.
here. I am going to be killed because I'm going to eat him.
You
I
are
can't.
going
I
to
can't.
be.
Can't
You are
take
going to
one
be
more of
yum
these
yums,
taps.
yum right there in your nice white linen suit. Yum yums for me, and I don't care what my French white gotta say. I'm about to eat the mess out of you right now, and
And
I loved
did.
every
And
And
did.
did.
While he was
part.
pissing. While he
And
was
This is
did.
gonna be your last use of the word boy. You
He
ain't gonna
got
say
his
that word no
last
more.
drip.
It was delicious.
It was. It was.
It was
Oh.
great. That was one of my favorite scenes.
I
I was
love
like,
that
I
scene.
love this. Right? It felt like
You,
vindication.
you see Louis
Right.
going from this almost docile character in the way that he maneuvers around the
Almost a
white man.
subservient character, almost. Yeah.
Yeah,
To that
into
apex
this
predator.
all out just wham.
Speaking of being subservient, later, like shortly after that, Lestat offers to take him to the opera.
Mm.
And while at the opera, again, Louis had to walk a step behind
Hmm.
Lestat. He even had to do a couple other things that, like when I saw it, the first time that I saw it, I knew about all of these things, but to see
To see it on
It's so
TV,
upsetting.
it
it,
was upsetting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
We
so,
sharing a
so
coffin, but I got
upsetting.
to be your valet when we go to the
Correct.
opera.
And
We
Correct.
you
got matching
dressing
suits
me.
almost. Right.
Like I can't dress
Right.
myself.
Right.
My white daddy gotta dress me.
That's it.
I'ma just say it. I said it.
No, but
Uh,
Malloy has some zingers too, because Malloy is like, okay, master, creator, but we're equals in the dark.
Correct.
When they coffin
No.
close.
You get to be on top, only in the dark.
Right.
I love it.
Malloy has
that.
subtle shade. He has subtle shade all throughout
Right.
the,
I
Does
don't know if it
the
was
first few
subtle.
episodes.
I don't know if
I
it was
don't
subtle
know.
at all. It was
I
like
thought
in your
Louis
face.
Right.
I thought Louis was gonna pop him a few
Look,
times.
He-
He was coming with the
when,
zingers.
but it was the
when we
truth,
bid each
though.
other down, when we
It
bid
was
each
the
other
truth.
down, we equal.
But look, there was something else that happened. So Louis, even though Louis was expressing to Lestat that, hey, this almost happened with me and my, I don't know, nephew, I don't know which one it was. I almost killed my nephew, my niece. And you're not even bothered. Like, you're not even you're not like it doesn't even bother you. Like, why doesn't this bother you? Now, having read the book, I understand. But I want to know what you all were thinking in that moment.
He's no longer a human.
Right.
Like, his
so much
humanity is gone.
so much time has passed that he is disconnected from that side of himself. It's
like totally gone.
It's
And
not
Louis is bringing his humanity to him.
correct.
But he does. Lestat don't like that. He, like, in my opinion, he don't like that humanness side to Louis. He respects it, but I don't think he likes it. I think he looks at it like a weakness.
I don't think he respects it.
I want y'all to go back and I want y'all to read that second book. I want
We
y'all
gotta
to go
read the
back and
book.
read that
That's our
second book.
homework. Y'all, I don't know if I can do homework right now. It's a lot.
For me, like Louis, when he goes around his mom, when he goes around his sister, he doesn't have the urge to eat them. I just don't think he has a connection with the baby.
The baby.
Like, at all.
Oh.
Because he hasn't, he has not once, like, his fangs come out or anything around his mom or sister.
That's true.
That makes sense.
And the baby was like a delicacy.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, it's kind of like a fine line between man and monster that he's threading. A fine line between man and monster. And I think that more instances of him taking blood, which is why I feel that he's opposed to drinking blood from humans at this point in time or even future, is because he thinks that that's him losing more and more of his humanity, which I think while he enjoys the gift, he resents Lestat for taking aspects of his human nature away from him.
Even though he asked for it.
Even though he asked for it. And he did. But he still resents him for it.
He got that and so much more.
He did.
So much more. Levitating.
Yeah.
He didn't know
I think that was the selling point. I think the levitation that did it. Like, all right.
But do you think this is the beginning when you see these instances of Lestat and their confrontations and their the differences between the two? Is this beginning of all of us that have read the books know what happens towards, what happens when Claudia comes in future episodes and what eventually is going to happen?
Yes.
This is the beginning of that breakaway, 100%. So to speak. Yeah.
100%.
I haven't read the books yet, but yes, I do think so.
Yeah.
I think
Get
so.
The cliff notes.
So far.
No cliff notes. You look.
Keeping it.
We only have 7 episodes, right? And so after the 7th episode, you can go and you can read the book, whatever books that come. Like we'll all be on the same page. We'll all be on the same page. You can do it. You can do it.
I believe it. You're right.
All right. So there was a moment at the dinner table when Louis was eating and Daniel was also eating. Brittany, you want to talk about it?
Like, that's my part.
Okay. So y'all, let's talk about this like 14-course meal that we had. The delicacy. We're starting off with a faux gras. Is that how we say this? Is it faux gras? Okay.
I'm not cultured
from
enough.
There, we start off. Then we have a hoof. A hoof comes out, and as you're looking at it, the meals
look like
getting more a pig foot, but good. It was a fancy one, y'all. Marinated and all types of stuff with a little flour on the end. It was bougie. And so
A little garnishment.
It was
A
real
little
bougie, baby. It
a
was
little
bougie.
garnishment.
it
A
was
little
Little
garnish,
garnishment.
garnish with a nice
A little
little
garnish.
Had a
yeah,
little puree on the bottom of the pig's
yeah,
foot
right. It was nice. It
to
was
take
a
away from
pickled
that
pig
knuckle.
foot. That pig, it was a little bit of that. You know what I'm saying? I loved it. I loved every aspect of it because, and then the music playing, it set it up to be this animalistic environment, but at the same time, it's animalistic, but it's still very classy and very decadent,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and it's so much into that whole moment. All the little bitty subtleties was building up to what you were about to see with that 7-course meal. And and Louis come out and it's blood. So then once we have the blood, then we have what next, y'all? Y'all remember? What was next?
On a silver platter.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
It was the fox. The fox. And what was the quote? What was the quote that he said? That was one of my favorite parts.
Oh,
The quote.
oh yeah, the
Oh,
quote.
oh crap. I forgot.
Is it
Talking about a
it's
rabbit.
something about the
Oh,
rabbit
do
in the
you think
feelings?
about basically how the rabbit feels before you eat it, or do you
And
just eat it?
just
Yeah, I
eat
mean,
it.
just goes in, goes in.
I was like, yes, eat it.
But
It was
so
like,
it's like Malloy's looking like this is so primitive, you
it's
know.
just it's like,
But
what is
hey, it's
this?
like, but you're eating animals too, you know.
Right,
It's like
right.
so when no matter
And
how you slice it,
then whenever the guy
you don't
came
look like
up,
no vegan to me.
not a
Yeah.
vegan, eating that faux gras. He wasn't no vegan. And then what was the part whenever the guy, the muscular guy came up, the Russian.
Yeah.
Y'all
What's his
remember the
name?
Russian?
Danik in his what you call it? His
Danik,
halter top? What?
Danny. With
Danik
his
in the crop
little,
top.
Crop
yeah.
top. Yeah, there you go.
Crop top, dang it.
But look, I'm about to jump. I'm about to jump, y'all. Spoilers to those of you all who who are not past episode 2. But look, do you remember Rashid? So I swear to you, he was on Rashid's neck for it had to have been 5 minutes.
He was
Just
With
drinking.
with
long.
Danik, it was like 30 seconds, and Danik was like falling on the
Yeah.
wall and
Right.
everything.
That's
Like, what's
right.
that about? What's
And
happening?
and
Okay.
Rashid is like this big, and
Correct.
Do you
they're
think
kind
that
of.
I have questions. I
I
really
have
do.
I
I
have
have
I
so many
have
questions with that.
I have an idea.
What you got?
No, no,
You ready? You ready?
gotta save some of this.
Wait, just this the idea.
We got to talk
What
about it for just a
what
second.
what if Louis has been feeding Rashad or Rashid his blood this whole time? So that way, little by little, he's become his minion. But him being his minion, he's also still able to stay human, but be frozen in time. So that was back like in the 60s or 70s that they met up. So he's been feeding off Louis too, but not enough to become a vampire,
I
but
think that's a
just
good
enough
point.
to sustain where he's at.
That's a good point. And if you think about it, other vampire stories they do that as well. Like in the originals, they have
Little
minions
minions.
and they give them a little bit of their blood, and it's not enough to turn them, but they're not quite human either. But it's interesting.
So, I will say this. So, the third book talks about this. And once you get to the third book, you might be thinking a little differently. However, something
Okay.
could change.
What's the
Which-
third book? What's the title of the third
Queen
book?
of the Damned.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
That's right.
it's Queen of the Damned
So I've never read Queen of the Damned, but I of course saw the
movie. It's a good
And
movie.
Daniel is in the third book, believe it or not. Which is
Really?
why seeing him here right now, I'm like, what the hell? Like,
Who
I'm
is?
like Daniel,
Which one's Daniel?
the reporter.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
He's
That's
in the
right.
he's in Queen of the Damned.
Yes, he is.
Which character?
Oh, I completely forgot.
Wait,
You're
no,
right.
no, no, no,
You're
no.
right.
Show me.
You're
I
right.
forgot. Who? Wait, no. Daniel is who in Queen of the Dam? He's himself.
Yes.
But which part? But which part? It's been too long since I've seen it.
Okay. So I saw it at the movies and I fell asleep. So I don't. I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about the book.
So in the book,
Who's in the
and
book?
Okay, in the book, who is
spoiler alert, spoiler
he? Okay,
alert.
that's
I
fine.
believe
Forget these people. Who
I
is he?
believe I
I
believe
love
that
y'all.
Daniel in the book, he becomes a part of an order later on called the Telemaska, and he
Oh,
eventually is, I believe he's eventually turned into a vampire at some point in time.
but he's a part of the secret society that holds on to their secrets.
Correct.
The ones that
Correct.
know
Because
where they're at.
he then meets
And
an older vampire who actually turns him because Lestat or
the
Norley
older
turned him. Yeah,
is
they
the
turn him, and
oldest
that's
one.
yeah. So, but
It's a
Rashid
good
is not
movie.
mentioned in the story anywhere. So
No.
I wonder if Rashid is. I don't know. I don't know what Rashid
Hell
is.
yeah, what you think?
I think Rashid is pretty, and I haven't thought anything past it.
The brown one, Rashid. The brown.
The brown one, baby. The brown one.
The
I
Rashid.
think he's a pretty placeholder, because he ain't Lestat.
Don't he look like he smell good?
Rashid said he's a
Yeah.
god, baby. I'll
Like
do anything for this guy.
he look like he smells like patchouli and cocoa butter
Okay.
with a
Mhm.
little hint,
Okay.
with a
And a
little hint of
sandalwood.
lavender, just a little hint of
little
lavender.
Can we
sandalwood.
put a little sandalwood in
Little
there?
sandalwood, just a little hint of lavender though, just a
A little bit.
touch of lavender.
Yeah.
What does hair smell like? What does hair smell like, though? I wonder what his hair smell like.
Sometimes it
Coconut.
smells like coconut, but then it depends on the day. It depends on the day and his
A little
activity
Egyptian
level
cotton.
and stuff.
A
That's a
little
lot of
Egyptian
scent
cotton.
going on. Come on now. That's a lot of scent.
Y'all some food.
What do we think the French white smells like?
Ooh.
Crisp linen cotton for me.
So
You
yeah.
on mute, Jermaine. You on
I know. I was turning the page and I didn't want y'all to hear me turn the page. But I was thinking about, you said fresh linen cotton. Is that what you said?
Crisp
Crisp.
linen cotton.
Chris.
Just a hint of starch.
Just a little bit of starch. Now, you know, believe it or not, starch turns me on. Starch turns me on. I can't tell you why. I can't tell, especially that faultless starch.
The lemon scented.
Yes.
No, you stares you off. It's like, oh, you smell like you care about how you look. Oh, God, come here. You smell like you took the time to iron your clothes.
You smell like you just washed your clothes and you ironed them before you talk to me.
Look, as an educator, that's a plus. When them kids.
Yeah, they're so
Lord
funny.
have mercy.
Oh man, I ain't laughed this hard in a long time. Y'all are hilarious.
I don't know. I feel like maybe Lestat smells like croissants.
Ooh, yes.
So, all right. So, last thing that we said we wanted to talk about
And
was-
wine.
and
Like,
wine.
ooh.
Ooh.
Like a
Hey.
nice, luscious red, a sweet red, or a Merlot.
It's full of
Oh,
body.
Merlot. Oh,
Mm.
body,
Did you
Maybe
say
a
full
nice-
of body? Full of
A
body.
nice red blend. Ooh.
Deep
That
down
was
in
silly,
the
and
heart.
I love it. I love it.
French white / sweet red Merlot.
He's really writing this down.
That all get repeated to his husband. I want y'all to know. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was sitting in your office and I was thinking that you remind me of. If I had to put you as the name of a drink, babe, you would be a red blend.
No, he said Tempranillo. He said Tempranillo. That was the wine that he said, nice and tart.
Speaking of tarts, when are they gonna kill Antoinette?
Let's move to this opera scene. let's move to this opera scene
Okay.
because
Okay.
there was a lot going on. Was it you, Elia? You like, or was it you, Brittany, that wanted to talk about the opera scene?
I wanted to talk about the opera scene because
Okay.
it triggered me.
Ooh.
You know how somebody always tells you, you always have that one person in your life that tells you, I love you, so I'm going to tell you when you do wrong.
Mm.
That's what Lestat did to that opera singer. He tore
Mhm.
him down. He
Two
made him,
pieces
he made him reconsider and
Yeah.
then
in the
kick out.
blood. In his blood. This way you. This way you. Huh?
Wrong.
Do it again.
Wrong.
Now do it again.
Huh?
And you can just look at his face as his whole life flashed before his eyes, questioning
Several
what has he
times.
been doing with his life. And this stranger
How did I
has
end up
brought
here?
it right.
Let me tell you
What
what happens when you come up here and serve me mediocrity. Okay?
I said, oh my
Ooh.
God.
Why you even
I
got up there
think
with
that
that
might be the
soprano?
first time we saw the monster. The monster Lestat. I think that might be the first instance where we saw Lestat as the monster.
You
No,
don't think the
in
first
in
time?
the in the church.
The
That
church
was
was
pretty
pretty bad.
monstrous.
But you know, it was also like this. That was a different scene.
It was
That was a
different.
It was
different
cunning.
scene.
It was
It,
cunning. It was
Okay.
yeah.
cunning.
The first time I feel like I saw Lestat as a monster was when he let Louis think that he could go home. And he
Oh.
couldn't go home. That was a monster.
You I forgot about
That
that.
was funny. I was laughing. That was so funny because he didn't even try to stop. First of all, you knew the time was up.
He
You
kept
knew the
He
time
just
going.
was
sat on the
up, and
couch or
you
something.
let him walk out the door.
So you know what
He
else
just
was
sat there and was like, "You're gonna find that very difficult." Not even audible, right? He didn't hear you. He didn't
I
hear
can
you.
I can show you better than I can. If I can show you better than I can tell you, was a show.
You
That
really
scene.
shouldn't go home right now. This is your home now. I'm
What?
going
I'm home.
home.
I
I'm
need to go
going
see about the
home.
business in the streets. I gotta check on my sister and my mama and them, and I gotta go.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay, go
you
ahead
gonna
and
find
go.
that?
All right,
You
go
gonna
ahead.
You
find
can
that
have
kind
this. I
So
that was the reason
Unbothered.
I said he was cruel. Because he knew. He knew he had that baby out there pouring milk on him, thinking that was gonna work.
Like he had something
And
hot. Like you do when you eat hot food, you put once you drink milk.
you got me pouring milk on my body, and this thing got nothing to do with us and this coughing. I'm mad at you. I'm coming in here looking like ash.
What's
I'm
this whole
burning the
milk gonna
pieces.
do?
Oh yeah.
Whole milk ain't gonna do nothing to me.
But you know what? For me, what I thought in that moment, seeing it on television after the book,
Hmm.
what I thought was this. It was a couple things all in like 1 second that I thought. I was like, oh wow. Number one, Louis never got a chance to not Louis Lestat never got a chance to tell Louis about the do's and don'ts. But it also
Mm.
reminded me of the fact that Lestat never learned a whole lot about the do's and don'ts.
Right.
His maker made him real quick, and he gave him like a few little things to know, and then that was it. He made Lestat kill him,
Yep.
and so he never had that experience.
Spoiler
So
alert.
that's the book, though. That's the book,
Yeah.
and like literally, like it's like maybe one page of the book. Just one page.
Okay.
It's not, it's not a big thing. But my bad.
Dang,
Don't
he
try
had
to
the
pour milk.
coordination.
Don't try to pour milk on it after you spoiled it. It's just one page.
But do you think that that's
Sometimes
an attempt?
one page make all the difference.
Do you think that's an attempt of the story to kind of for us to feel a little compassion towards Lestat?
Yeah,
Or
but I don't.
You mean in the book or on the TV show?
on the show?
No, not at all. Not
It's
at
just a
all.
matter of fact point. It's just like this is what it was.
I think it made him look like an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, yo, that
Because he knew better. He experienced worse. And even though he is no longer human, he still has the reasoning and the emotional intelligence, or he should. He's been around for hundreds of years, if not longer, to know how to explain to a fledgling,
mm,
this is what if you love me like you say you love me, if I caught your eye like you claim that I did, you know, this is the big, like, we're starting to get to the point where I do not like Lestat as a vampire. In the books, he redeems himself somewhat in his quest, but we haven't seen it yet in the show.
Do you think it was an attempt to control Louis?
Yes. Yes.
100%. Louis be eating the bait, boy.
Yes.
I mean, he just be reeling them in. Shh.
But think about it though.
Be my companion.
Remember when? I'm just gonna say this. Remember when we were the bait for someone else that reeled us in?
Ooh, that's deep. I don't like where this is going.
I'm just saying, you know.
All right, Corey, you kind of getting all in my business now. Hold up now.
Wait a minute, Corey.
We gotta keep some anonymity about my past now. That may or may not be my present.
My God.
So you just don't see that pothole. You just gonna keep stepping in it, huh? Okay. I see you a masochist. You like this. All right. Cool.
Well, unless there's some parting words that we've got or something that we want to talk about that we missed, let's do that now. Otherwise, I think it's time to call it a night.
Oh, party that's such sweet sorrow.
It really is.
Y'all keep watching. This is an amazing show. We
Yes.
need a season 3. Keep watching. Y'all tune in to us because we're amazing. This is fun.
Nice to look at beautiful people.
And it's just the beginning. There's so much more that we can discover together. So
we've only just begun.
Don't forget to comment and subscribe down below.
Yes.
There you go. There you go.
We like to share. Be our companion.
Join us in the dark.
All right, y'all. Thank you all for joining us, and we are saying good night. See you.
Good night.
Good night.